to bite down on one right to respond immediately.
Howdy everybody, thanks for joining us. I'm Mackenzie, I'm here with McCall. We're hoping to do some clicker training today, although there's a lot of action in the sky up there. It looks like a bald eagle. Is that a bald eagle?
Looks like it.
And one of our osprey, or an osprey, haranguing it. So that's pretty exciting. Also a lot of action at the ranch today. And there's a little bit of a mix-up with my horse, and he ended up in a pasture with a lot of green grass that he does not want to walk away from. So we're gonna see if he's interested in doing some training, but training sessions never really start good when they start with trying to like chase an animal out of something that they want to do more than hang out with you. And yeah, we try and prevent that stuff, but every once in a while things happen. So it might be kind of a not what I planned for today, but those happen. In the meantime, if you do have any questions, while we wait and see if my horse wants to come out of there, we'll try a couple of different things, but I'm not totally sure we'll get them in time for the session. Well, just a quick recap. So my name is Mackenzie Cole. I've been out here at Dunrovin doing training on camera and helping out with the website and stuff since about 2013, on and off, and I've done a lot of stuff early on helping with Days at Dunrovin, and now I'm back mostly just to do training and stuff on camera and do a little riding. I was out 2 weeks ago and we talked about clicker training. So that's just using operant conditioning, which is a derivative of behavioral science, to condition behavior with animals. The behavior I wish my horse was more conditioned in was coming away from the things he likes to get the things he likes, but we haven't done a lot of work on that, and especially recently with this pasture, the likelihood of him moving through there with not getting as much green grass as he wants is pretty slim, but we'll see. Clicker is just a tool, like any tool. You can use it wrong or right. Just like you can put holes in a wall with a hammer instead of driving nails, you can do the same thing with clicker. We use treats or some other form of positive reinforcement with clicker training, and that's what we'll be doing today. Originally I'd been hoping to keep going with our trailer training by getting him comfortable again with moving in and out of stalls, using targets and stuff, and hopefully working with the barn, but we might be way late this week and have to start back up in July. I also was planning to do a little bit on desensitization work for fireworks season, so maybe we'll flip the bill and do some of that today. So if you do have questions about how to help your animals with fireworks, with the 4th of July coming up, feel free to throw them onto chat and James will convey them. For those of you who aren't familiar with Canner, he's a rescue horse. He was going to be put down, and then I picked him up and in the hopes of rehoming him, but ended up not being able to find a super suitable home, so he came out to Dunrovin with me, and he's been out here since about late 2013, early 2014. Do you want to introduce yourself, McCall?
Hi, I'm McCall. I have just grown up around animals my whole life and really enjoy working with them. I've lived in Missoula for a few years now and just dipping my toe in out here at Dunrovin when Mackenzie comes out. That's about it.
McCall graciously offered to come hang out and help me do some training. It's kind of fun to have somebody in the car for the drive out and hanging out to ask questions or try out some of the stuff. So let's see what my horse is thinking now. We'll just do a quick check-in. So I could try something like driving him out, but I'm really not interested in that because I want him to feel comfortable and excited about his training sessions and enthusiastic, and we aren't going to get that if we start it with a big scary get out of here sort of deal. So today might just be a day where he gets to graze a bit and see what happens. So my first thing is I'm going to see if he'll engage at all with all this grass and stuff, and he's doing a pretty good job engaging me. He might not be able to see super well. Schnack. I'm going to try and use kind of more sophisticated game that I was planning on talking about today, called Premax Principle, where I'm going to try and get interaction with me and then rewarded with a behavior that he wants to do more. So that's the grazing is his reward, in addition to a couple clicks and treats. But the grazing is a high likelihood behavior in this environment right now, and I'm going to see if I can start to get 1 or 2 behaviors with me and then back to grazing. If that's successful, what happens is that each of the behaviors that precede grazing become more and more likely to happen. We'll see. So it's gonna be a lot of really quick, fast requests and see what happens, and then I'm gonna just leave them alone. Fist bump. It's a behavior he likes to do. Leave it. Other behavior he likes to do. Okay, Schnack. Before he starts to graze, I give him the cue to graze, and that's ultimately a reward for the other 2 behaviors. Then I give him a break. Normally we wouldn't set up like this to train like ignoring grass and stuff. We try and set up an environment where the grass is much more controlled than where he is right now, but fast and loose, this is one of the better approaches, and has worked with him many times in the past, but not always, because the grass is right there. He doesn't have to perform any behaviors. But what he's learning is that, you know, if he wants to graze, it's not a big deal, but like fun things still happen with me. Let's see if we can get another couple behaviors. We'll see if he's in this bump. Pets. Pet. Get those itchies. Schnack. He went to it a little bit sooner than when I cued him. Unfortunately, a lot of action on the nest, so they're going back after that bald eagle. It's flying away. I'll just narrate some nest action while it's happening. The other thing I'm going to do is just get some of this grass into where I want him, so that if he does decide to go through the gate, he gets an immediate reward for it too, of exactly what he was looking for. Hey, McCall? Do you want to do me a favor and just like pick grass and pepper it throughout the sorting pen area, or sorry, the tack area here? You just put it like in buckets and stuff. The idea is that if he comes in, then he'll find a lot of grass in here too and be more excited to come in, but we'll see. Three-match principle is a really cool principle. Mostly utilized in animal training. It's actually not a very well-known concept in other behavior groups, or like behavior science groups, so like in human-specific ones, but it's got some really cool qualities that can really lead to crazy behavior change. So it's a really simple theory. They also call it grandma's rule. It's the, do your homework, then you get dessert, or do your homework, then you get video games, eat your greens, then you get dessert principle. And it's really been successfully demonstrated that if a behavior that's less likely precedes a behavior that's more likely, the behavior that's less likely becomes more likely. So it happens with any sort of behavior. Ideally you have the behaviors on cue, but it's not totally necessary. It's just a lot easier to create that behavior first. So like if you don't train the behavior to a point where they can successfully do it when you request it once, your likelihood of being able to get it and then reward is super diminished, right? So you'll see, like I'm asking him for some behaviors he knows pretty well, and I'm going to keep trying to reward them with more grazing. And he'll tell me that he's interested in training by like just bringing up his head when I walk over. Fist bump. Good job. Leave it. Good job. Fist bump. Okay, Schnack. That was a kind of weak sauce fist bump. So I'll give him a little break and pick some more grass and put it around. Grass. Any questions so far? If you tuned in 2 weeks ago, you can see, like, you know, this grass is a big distraction, and my horse is a lot less responsive because of that. In the past, he's been more interested in training than he has been in grazing, but this has always been a pretty exciting place for him to get to graze in. And There's a few different ways that, you get them more comfortable moving through this environment and paying attention to you, none of which I've had a chance to work on yet this year. So it's a pretty high value reward. Hi, this one? Leave it. Very good. Yeah, leave it. Got some scritches. And a little break. So that wouldn't be the most successful because I like that. You can also just put it into the buckets in the stalls. So I should have cued him with the behavior snack before he started snacking, so that was a mistake on my part. But clicker training, we like to say everybody gets to make mistakes, behavior still changes. The other thing we're doing over here is called enriching the environment. So we're trying to create a more enriched, interesting environment for him to come into. Well, it's not going to be a field of the grass that he wants, so that's what we're competing against. But typically, good training would do fist bump. Good job. Heck. So that just tells me that I need to work on my backup cue in environments like this. Fist bump's still really strong though. We would do backup. Beautiful. Snack. We would try and start teaching him that he gets to move through one environment into more rewarding environments and successfully rewarding environments, and back into successfully rewarding environments is another way that you build a stronger behavior about moving through spaces like that. But got to prioritize what I want to work on based on what I need to see from him, and that's not a high priority for me because I don't have to move him through these too often. Try and set it up so training time happens elsewhere. And if I wanted to work on this, I wouldn't. It's like starting at step Z without going through steps A through X, So not totally ideal. That's why we also like to say set yourself up for success. And sometimes we just have to work in lower success environments. And we're still getting success and adjusting my expectations down, increasing my rate of reinforcement. But a horse that had been trained using this methodology from the beginning, nice. That's a sign of success. You see how he just decided to take a few steps over to me. This is called a jackpot. Really good job. Thank you for coming to visit. Okay, go snack. Would not necessarily the level of trouble with this sort of stuff. And we've been working together for a long time. But unfortunately, I get limited access to him because I live in town and have a full-time job outside. I'm good to see him, and so he's not always I wouldn't call him a shining example of the best of clicker training, but he's a great example of the best of recovery from trauma that operant conditioning can offer. Looking great, thank you. Where are you picking your grass from?
Oh, I'm finding it all over. There's some on the other side of the barn. I devastated this little patch of grass over here, though.
It's a great amount of grass. My original goal is I like that there's some grass there, because then when he goes into the barn area, which is kind of scary for him, he gets to do what he's doing out here. But I like that to be associated with the barn area. That's a little bit scarier. With the idea that eventually he'll build into associating what he's doing in the barn area, loading into the barn with loading into trailers. But you can't put all the grass in the field and give them access to it and still have that same result necessarily.
Mm-hmm. The divas want to train with
Oh
you
yeah,
today.
the divas want to train so bad. They're trying to sing for their dinner. hopefully we'll get some diva training in this summer. Well, just because this is kind of low action, you wanna, yeah, let's like load, well, I mean, there's plenty of grass right there, but we load that thing up with grass too. Thanks, Nicole.
Okay.
I'm also just trying to give him a lot of breaks, so it's not like I'm harassing him while he's enjoying him. So, opportunities like this where your animal is like really interested in paying attention to something else are great times to do some desensitization work. So I'll just do a little bit of what I was planning to do next week, and we can recap next week. Hi, do you want to come in? No, you must have heard me. It's like, no, I think we should stay on with this stuff. Say hi. Good job. Did you want a snack? Go on and snack. Now I'm going to do something that's a little counterintuitive and give him a chance to go right back in. That's more of that Premax principle. Here you go. He doesn't have to take the food from my hand for that one. I'm going to try and make it so that coming in is rewarded with going back out. Let's go. You may not want to go. You may want to keep exploring this environment, which is fine. It's actually better. All right, great. So it's an excellent, demonstration of how taking your time, there's an immediate response to that, which could be to try and startle the horse or push the horse into where you want them to be. And that might be faster in that moment, but in the long run, it's going to diminish trust and lower enthusiasm for training sessions. And that's exactly what I want to avoid, especially with my horse, who has not had the best experience with people. You can definitely get away with it with a horse who has not been through the amount of trauma that he has. Doesn't necessarily mean that horse is going to be as enthusiastic. Oh, hi. Do you want to go back? Yes, Mom. Okay. Go snack. Great. Would like him to. Great. Good job. So to me, that's a big opportunity because he came and interacted with me in order to get back into the environment that he left. There's no stress. Let's see if he decides to come back out for a visit. He might not. He might have decided that this isn't exciting enough. But sometimes those small ones end up being huge because they lead to big moves later. And I'm not going to worry about it too much. So let's go back to just talking about desensitization work. So, what is desensitization? Well, if an animal displays a fight or flight behavior to any sort of stimuli, could be touch, could be a particular smell, those can be hard to spot sometimes, or like many animals, could be fireworks and guns, because they're loud, sudden, explosive sounds that don't occur naturally in the environment. Many animals, right, we develop a fear response to them, so that could be shaking, cowering, hiding, turning and running, right? And if you want to help your animal not have those, the best thing you can do is introduce them to sudden stimuli at a level where it doesn't actually produce the behavior, so there's no fear response, and then slowly start adjusting that stimuli up and down so that hopefully they will be conditioned to it, and you present alternative things for them to pay attention to, ideally food, right? And it's even better if the stimuli happens, the low level, and then the food comes. So what that's starting to do is program their brains so that instead of having that fight or flight response, what's literally happening is stimuli is transferred into information through the ear, right, with a firework usually. Sometimes it's visual, but we're just going to go with ear. That information has a few options right away that it picks up through the amygdala. So the other mechanisms that convert that sound into neurological data. And that happens before there's any cognitive functionality, right? So they don't think, I heard a firework, oh my God, I should be afraid. It's literally, I heard a firework, I start to feel afraid. Then there can be a cascade of mental thoughts that happen after that. And this is true with humans too. Anyone who's been, shell-shocked or has PTSD to environmental triggers, this is not how you should operate with humans, because fortunately with humans we have the ability to talk and imagine scenarios, and only should be dealt with licensed therapists. So don't apply any of this to humans, but humans are animals as well, and it's the same neurological structures. It's just that with animals we don't have the benefit of language and conveying imaginative scenarios and being able to work through our potential traumas or fears that way. So what we want to do is introduce stimuli. It doesn't even have to be the same thing, but just a sudden noises at soft intervals where there's no response. So if I was doing this with Ken right now, I'd be over here going, and you might not even be able to hear that, right? And he probably can't either, but that's a sudden stimuli, auditory, right? And what we want to see is a non-response. If we see a non-response, we can escalate a little bit. So non-response, he's getting positive reinforcement through the grazing. And then the important thing here is that we aren't always escalating, so it should go soft again, right? Still getting positive reinforcement. Now if I was introducing, if I wanted this to go even faster, I would introduce food each time. So it could be a click treat or just a treat, right? Either way. And in fact, just a treat is absolutely fine here. This is called classical conditioning as opposed to operant conditioning, and those have some overlaps. But with classical conditioning, where you're just pairing some sort of stimulus with food. This is how Pavlov ended up teaching dogs to salivate at the sound of a bell, right? Same sort of thing, but it also has the added benefit of changing the neurological pathway so they no longer go to releasing cortisol. Cortisol, now I always get those confused. Cortisol, thank you. And cascading into the other neurological chemicals that create fear, right? And in extreme cases, adrenaline. Now with my horse, everything needs to create fear, and I've done a lot of this desensitization work around all sorts of things. So the very first thing I had to do was with people, but then it was with people with their hands in their pockets, their hands coming out of their pockets, their shirts, their coats coming on and off, all these things. I had to go through this process pretty rigorously. With most animals, it's not that extreme. But if your animal is afraid of fireworks, I would start with just gentle taps. And then eventually you can get up to, and of course, like if your animal's displaying extreme fear, you need to work with a behavioral consultant, because this session alone won't be enough for you to deal with that. Let's see if my horse wants to do a little training. We'll do more of that next week. Hopefully my horse will be interested in coming back in for a sec. Hi. Fist bump. Very good. Okay, go Schnack. Good news is he'll have it cleared up so that the other horses will be less interested in grazing as they move through. Hopefully. Hey McCall, do you want to come in with me and do a little bit with him?
Sure.
We'll switch it up that way. So you can just set that like right in the middle. I guess I better watch time a little bit. I've been blabbing at everybody. I'll put. So you can take the clicker.
Okay.
The can, and we're just gonna walk up. I'll pretend to be him, you pretend to be me. Don't click, but you can do the rest. Okay. You walk up, and if he raises his head, you just present your hand and say fist bump.
Fist bump.
Right. And then click, and then give him treat.
Would you like a carrot?
Go. And then you can say, go Schnack, and turn and walk away.
Okay.
We're just going to try one or two of those. We might do one and then leave. We'll just see. And just starting, it's like helping him learn to be more interested as things are happening. And he does love training, so. He just doesn't necessarily love training as much as he loves grazing green grass right now. Hi. So he's interested. See if he'll do a fist bump for you.
Fist bump.
Nice. That was a good one. Click. Good. And treat. And then tell him to go Snack.
Go Snack.
And turn and walk away. Cool. He's like, oh, McCall's here. Well, maybe now I'm interested in training. Kenner's a big McCall fan.
I know where to scratch him.
He does appreciate that. Hey, James, have there been any questions for us? Yeah, he's pretty good with noises, that's true. Go ahead. Yeah, he used to be afraid of, so the question is, was there a time, or somebody saw a time when he wasn't interested in moving through gates, and that's absolutely true. He used to be really afraid of gates and moving through them. We just did a kind of similar game to the one that we're doing now, where we come up to the gate. I tried to give him a lot more control over the gate opening, so he touched the gate. You actually saw him do that. I wasn't really talking about it, but he knows the gate, and then he helps me push them open, so that level of control helped a lot with his interest. And we did a lot of games like this where it was go out the gate, turn around, go right back into where you were. But at first it was just walk up to the gate, go away from the gate. Walk up to the gate, go away from the gate. And even before that, it was walk towards the gate, go away from the gate. I practiced opening and closing the gate with him around far enough away that it wasn't too scary. That helped desensitize him. And then we did a lot of leave the gate open, move in and out. Occasionally he doesn't want to go through the gate right now. Like right now he doesn't want to go through the gate because he's more interested in actually eating stuff, but sometimes it's because he's actually bulking because he's afraid of something in the environment, and that's usually something that's not typically there. So it could be like a big noisy truck idling, and he'll still bulk at that because I don't get a lot of access to work with big noisy trucks. But that's one of the sounds that he's still sensitized to that I haven't successfully desensitized him to, because it meant really scary things to him so many times. It's still along the lines with the trailer. Looks like he's kind of more interested in going back in with everybody else. We do have a storm coming in. Do you want to come back in?
Sure.
So the rain might make him a little bit more jumpy. If he gets startled, we'll just exit cleanly over the wire or some other way. Let's see if he's interested in doing some training. He'll turn to us if he is. This might not be able to see super well. Sorry for that. Hi. Fist bump. This is going to be a fist bump with me, then a fist bump with McCall.
Thanks, bud.
And 2 treats. Let's see if you can get a leave it. Just hold out your hand and say leave it.
Leave it.
Good. And click. Give a treat, and then tell him to snack.
Snack.
Says, okay, I will snack. Why, thank you, I will. Yeah. Guys. I think we'll give them another 5 or 10 minutes. It would be really nice to get them in here for even just a quick training session and then back out, but we might not. We did get that one come in, which is actually a pretty big win for me, where he like really chose it. That made me pretty happy, since we haven't worked on it much at all. From that, you can move to, these were the little wins that started out his lack of fear for gates and all of his other behaviors. So it's important to be patient and get these little wins, and then you can build on bigger behaviors. And eventually you can have a horse who just runs right through mounds and mounds of green grass, even if they haven't had it for a while, because they know sooner or later they're going to get more access to green grass if they do. But I would also do a lot of setups of it where I could control it a little bit more like I could in that environment if I was super, super interested in getting that behavior. So much good grass. Fist bump. Snack. Do you want to see if you can get a fist bump with them?
Fist bump.
Good. And tell him before he goes.
Snack.
Awesome. He's like, oh, maybe I'll snack. You tried out another behavior. Leave it. Okay, snack. Cool. So that time I didn't click or anything. He left my hand, and the reward was just getting to snack more. He's definitely kind of interested in trying out coming in. Been a little rain. That's going to get a lot worse here in 20 minutes or so, potentially. Do you have any questions? It's okay if not.
Why didn't I bring my rain jacket?
McCall, why didn't you bring your rain jacket?
Well, actually, mostly because it's crinkly and makes noises.
Yeah, that's a good reason not to bring your rain jacket. Although he's gotten pretty good at that. Yep, that's the goal. Keep working on not trailer things, just like with other desensitization work. Do you want to do a couple with it? Great. See if you can get like 2 behaviors before he snacks.
Okay.
And try and tell him before he decides to use.
Pets?
Pets is like an okay snack behavior. Oh, that's great. Oh, good. You just like started your snacking down.
Snack.
Good. You can even click him and see if he'll take a treat for snacking because you asked him to do it. Just go, good.
Thanks, buddy.
And tell him to snack again.
Snack.
Cool. Sorry, I got distracted coaching. Yes, that's the goal. We're going to work on the trailer this summer. So right now I'm trying to procure myself my own trailer, which is quite a struggle. Everything with horses is always way more of a struggle than you think it's going to be. Just FYI, if anybody's thinking about going into horses. So I'm trying to find a trailer that I can actually afford to buy that isn't going to do more harm than good. Isn't going to break down on the road or lose a tire or have a horse hoof go through the bottom. That's a bit of a challenge in my price range. And then grab a truck, and then my goal is as soon as I have those things procured to start working on that trailer as much as possible. But I can do a lot of trailer training without a trailer at all, especially if you have an animal that's slightly afraid. Like, it's actually really good to create a very strong set of behaviors that are not at all associated with the thing that trauma or fear is based around, and then build them up so that they're super strong and they have that to fall back on around the trailer. So every time I work with him on going into a stall that he's not used to, that's trailer training. Every time I work with him on the barn where he's actually so afraid to go in, that's trailer training, right? And really the likelihood of me having tremendous success with a trailer where he's like really routinely and happily doing it without having success somewhere that's less scary to him, the barn, is pretty unlikely. So in the past I've not done the best job of trailer training him in terms of breaking it down because I was working under some pretty tight timelines, and unfortunately I think that's like even slowed him down worse. So that was on me. I didn't do the original thing, but I did kind of sign up to try and get him into trailers before, without really doing the full breakdown. Now I'm really committed to, he's improved dramatically with people, his halter, all sorts of stuff. But especially around trauma and stuff, I wasn't a great advocate or caretaker for my horse when I pushed it too fast and worked directly on trailers too much, I think, before he was totally ready. So I'm trying to avoid that. So it's okay that it's taking a little while to get a trailer put together that'll work, but I need to get something that's easier. He'll go in the trailer pretty willingly all the way up to his hind end. Occasionally he'll put his hind end in, but he's not comfortable, and I could get him somewhere in a pinch if I really needed to, but I want him to be just as happy going into the trailer as he is going into a stall, or as happy going into the trailer as he is doing a fist bump. Now he might not ever be 100%. His halter has always been not 100%. I usually have to redo my training, and that's typically true of things that animals have had really, really bad experiences with. But I can put his halter on him at least 9 times out of 10, if not 19 times out of 20. Sometimes I just have to back up and redo the steps, and I really have to take a little bit of stock in the environment. If there's 3 other horses there, that's when I don't have a lot of success with his halter, and I imagine his trailer is going to be similar. If there's a lot of potential triggers, it's going to be harder. But I want to get back to working on it, and I think we will this summer. And I'm hoping to just get a fresh trailer, a fresh start, something with a ramp is going to be a big important part of it to me. Well, James, what do you think? Should we call it a day? Kind of at time. We're not a lot of movement with my horse, but that's okay. We got some really good stuff in terms of his training, not as exciting as last time. Yeah, it's good. I think that's a good first step, considering this is the first time we dealt with the orchard in a while, so I'm happy with it. cool. Now I get to try and get them out of the orchard again, but into a whole bunch of horses. Should be. Please feel free to watch me attempt that one, but we don't have to do that on camera. I don't want to take up too much more of James's time this evening. We'll be back next Thursday, or at least I will. Maybe I'll be able to rope McCall into it. We'll see. And we'll probably do some more work on just what desensitization looks like. Maybe with my horse, maybe with the divas. I'm going to touch base with Suzanne and everybody and see. And we'll just talk more about it, and I can do some more accurate demonstrations at that point. We can get into all sorts of really exciting stuff, like variable reward schedules based on the frequency and intensity of the stimuli. You know, super exciting stuff. All right, well, thanks to James, thanks to everybody at Dunrovin, thanks to all of you for hanging out, tuning in, thanks to McCall for coming out with me, thanks to my horse for always making it interesting. And we'll see you all next week. Hopefully, if you do have questions, be sure to visit the Quicker Training with Mackenzie Explore page and write them down, and I'll try and answer them on camera, or tune in and chat with me. Thanks, everybody. See you, Celia. See you, everybody else. Bye. Okay, so I think